Hi, my name is Andrew Eldridge, and I am honored to select the All-State Percussion Etudes for this year's Texas Music Educators Association. The Timpani selection this year is called EV, which is Etude 13 found in the book Studies in Copper by Alex Orfaly on pages 34 through 36. This etude is based upon motives found in the percussion ensemble called Ionization, written by Edgar Varese, considered one of the very first percussion ensembles written for our art form. If anything happens throughout the preparation of this etude this year, I hope it also affords you an opportunity to learn about this incredible percussion ensemble. The most important thing to focus on, as with all percussion etudes, is playing with a great sound quality on the drums. Avoid overplaying the instrument with stiff downstrokes. Focus on fluid motions by relaxing the hands during high demand phrases. The most important stroke that any timpanist can learn is the legato stroke, which is sometimes called the rebound stroke. The mallet should rebound freely off the drum head with very little pressure inside the hand. Playing harsh downstrokes overplays the timpani head and changes both the pitch and timbre. Think about keeping more air between the stick and your palm when playing with a legato stroke. When playing with a staccato approach, hold on to the stick just a bit more, lower the stick heights, and listen for clarity of the notes that are still tone full. Above all, use your ears to listen while you play. This will help you hear when your articulations are too staccato from squeezing the mallets or playing too harshly. Be the best rhythmician you can possibly be. Learn to execute the correct notes and rhythms at a slow tempo to master the large spaces you need to travel across the drums. The primary thematic material that this etude is based upon is rhythmic and originally scored for the snare drum. I recommend learning the rhythms, including the stickings, first on a single surface like a practice pad, then moving it across the drums. The rhythmic theme can best be thought of as a melody. Try singing the rhythm to yourself first to best capture the accent and unaccented nuances that help drive this theme. Clarify your stickings and write them in your music. I call these landmark stickings. Landmarks help you feel comfortable as you pass them. They are familiar territory and give you points of interest when playing through the music. And it's completely okay to change these stickings as you mature in the piece and discover different ways to think about the music. For this etude specifically, I chose to lead with the left hand in the first three measures. I played the lowest two drums with the left hand only to help my body minimize as much rotation as possible. If you choose the sticking, focus on the left hand moving as smoothly as you possibly can. Keep your hand low to the drums. The challenge with this phrase comes from the activity of that left hand and maintaining a great quality of sound, especially considering that you will need to skip over the 26th drum to play the phrase. Consider practicing this phrase with just the left hand skeleton to understand the motion, then fill it in with the opposite hand. In this example, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to play the measures 1 through 3 with the left hand skeleton first, then add in the right hand. The best playing zone will be in a compressed circle area about 2 to 4 inches from the edge. To help find the best playing zones with my students, I always demonstrate the sound of playing in the center. It will sound like move your mallet gradually back from center until you hear the sound eliminated from your tone. Be careful not to go past it though. The low pitch that is removed is called the fundamental. If you play too close to the edge, you lack the lowest sound that is characteristic of playing on this drum. In a few moments throughout this etude, you need to know the music so well that you can use your eyes to spot the proper playing zones before you strike that drum. This often comes at a time where you're playing across many drums at a time. It can be very easy to strike in a poor playing zone when you throw your hand too quickly without seeing it first. For example, I memorized the opening statement so I could focus on the proper playing zones for my active left hand. This is also the case for measure 8, where the timpanist begins the ionization theme on the highest drum, but needs to strike the lowest drum on beat 2 with the left hand. Spot that playing zone in advance for the best tone possible. Crossovers also pose a challenge for playing zones. In measures 35 through 36 and 39 through 40, my left hand stays in place while the right hand crosses over. Focus on crossing the right hand near the wrist and keep your mallet head in the proper playing zone and low to the drum. One quick note about crossovers. Avoid rotating the hand and mallet significantly during the crossover. Rotating the hand or changing the angle of attack means you're going to play with a different part of the mallet, causing you to change the sound inconsistently from what you want. In general, dampening should occur only to help clarify phrases, cadences, or to bring out specific notes that are marked short. Dampen in the playing area using the fingers and the pads of the fingertips. Avoid pressing into the head too much as you may bend the pitch with the leftover ring you are trying to cut short. Also place your hand gently. And I know it's difficult. You may hear this just a bit as you play, but work to avoid smearing the hand as you remove it from the head. In this etude, I always dampen on the first rest note of a tuning change. In measures 68 through 70, I chose to not dampen on every marked rest. Rather, I dampen on a few drums at the same time after the staccato marks in measures 69 and 70. And this helps to clarify the difference between the extra articulation and unmarked notes. I certainly chose to dampen the marked staccato notes in measure 9 and 11. Make these quick to avoid becoming sluggish on the rhythms that immediately follow, but keep in mind your hands should be light. Avoid dampening too heavily, otherwise you will bend the pitch. There are 3 tuning changes in this etude. There are a few things that you can do to help you become more comfortable with the tuning process. First, try practicing this etude on a marimba to help your ear become more accustomed to the pitches. Since this etude covers almost 1.5 octaves in range, your ear should get used to hearing the various wide intervals expected in this piece. Secondly, practice the tuning changes by themselves without the music. You want to train your lower body to remember where to move the pedals through muscle memory. This takes several repetitions to get comfortable. Next, plan out the order in which you want to retune the drums. I generally avoid immediately retuning any drum I just finished playing to avoid bending a pitch that may still be ringing if I did not dampen it effectively. Start on a different drum that is closest to where you just finished playing, then proceed to the drum that you just finished to retune that afterwards. If your drums have tuning gauges, that's great. However, don't trust that they are accurate unless you personally set the gauges right before your practice session. Timpani can change often their pitch based on the temperature in the room, the barometric pressure outside, and even if the heads have not been cleared in a while. Another tip to keep in mind is always reset the gauges after every single move of the drum. The little letters can sometimes come loose and shift from the vibrations of rolling timpani down the hallway. Keep the retuning process in time. For instance, in measure 17 through 22, I want to retune the 26-inch drum first, be done by the time I move to the lowest drum in measure 18, retune the 32-inch drum in 19, then leave the next few measures free to prepare for the upcoming phrase. Of course, you can extend these times to perhaps a 3-measure sequence for each drum rather than the 2-measure sequence that I used. However, I encourage you to think of the logistics of tuning as placeholders for simple timekeeping. This etude's tempo marking indicates the player should be articulate and precise. It also asks for a new music sound. For mallets, I experimented with several different styles of wraps, including very articulate felts. I eventually settled on the Vic Firth T4 American Custom Ultra Staccato mallets to emulate the original snare drum motif from which this etude is based. This mallet also helps me play with the precision and articulation required to clearly play the intricate rhythms at extremely soft dynamics. Be very careful with this mallet, however. The player absolutely needs to be hyper aware of the tone you produce with this mallet on the drum at all dynamics. It's way too easy to overplay the drums and create less than desirable sounds. Cultivate a good sound at all volumes on this mallet and trust your ears to let you know when you cross that line between bad and good quality sounds on the drum. If I may, and just like with all the other percussion etudes, here are a few mindset tips that help me and my students through the preparation phase for any big performance. Your mindset can absolutely change everything about your performance. Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or can't, you're right. Find ways to also focus on the musical details while performing. Practice keeping those stray non musical thoughts from going through your mind while in that performance flow. Focus also on creating productive systems, not just goals. You are better served if you have a plan in place for developing a solid technique on the timpani rather than just mastering the specific combinations in this etude. Lastly, learn to enjoy the process. We spend so much time in the preparation phase, but choose how we feel about music after a single performance. Our fulfillment should come from a positive relationship with the drums in the practice room. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial over the 2024-2025 Texas Music Educators Association All-State Timpani Etude. I sincerely hope you have fun working on this etude, and I also hope that you take a bit of time to acquaint yourself with the percussion ensemble Ionization by Edgar Varese. And if you're auditioning for the Texas All-State this year, I hope you have a great performance and enjoy the ride.